Chapter 17 of the book of Genesis takes us to a crucial moment in human history, when God reaffirms his covenant with Abram, an elderly, tired man who has not yet had children with his wife Sarai. However, something surprising is about to happen. God promises Abram that he will be the father of a multitude of nations, and as a sign of this promise, his name is changed to Abraham. In addition, Sarai is also given a new name, Sarah, the mother of kings and nations, despite her advanced age. In this context, the covenant is sealed with the introduction of circumcision, a perpetual sign of the commitment between God and Abraham's descendants. With this, Ishmael, Abraham's son with Hagar, is included in the covenant, but God guarantees that the promise will be fulfilled through Isaac, the son that Sarah will still give birth to. Abraham, even at 99 years old, promptly obeys God and circumcises himself and all the men in his house, sealing this eternal covenant once and for all. The scene echoes to this day as a milestone in faith, obedience, and the divine promise. Genesis 17 is a chapter that reveals a profound spiritual and personal change for Abraham and Sarah. The change of name is significant in biblical and spiritual culture, symbolizing not only a new phase of life, but also a transformation in identity before God. Abraham, who was previously Abram, exalted father, is now called father of a multitude, reflecting the expansion of the divine promise. The same is true of Sarah, whose new name carries with it the promise of fertility and royal descendants. Circumcision, as a physical sign of this covenant, represents a visible mark of the commitment of God's people to him, and its relevance remains to this day in Jewish and Muslim traditions. The covenant with Abraham was not just personal, it was an eternal covenant that would extend across generations and impact all of humanity. The birth of Isaac, predicted in this chapter, is seen by theologians as a harbinger of the messianic promises, making Abraham the first link in a long chain that would culminate in Jesus Christ. In the archaeological context, the time of Abraham dates back to the beginning of the Middle Bronze Age. Around 2000 BC excavations in cities such as Ur, Haran and Hebron, mentioned in the biblical narrative, reveal a society in transition between nomadism and urbanization. Abraham and his family probably lived as semi-nomads, moving between camps and urban settlements in search of pasture for their flocks. In Ur, Abraham's hometown, archaeologists have discovered complex ziggurats and evidence of a prosperous Sumerian civilization. The cuneiform record and cultural practices of that time show that alliances between gods and peoples were common, especially among nomads who saw in their relationship with the deities a guarantee of protection and prosperity. Haran, where Abraham also lived, was an important trading and religious center, reflecting an environment in which rituals such as circumcision could have been a visible sign of the separation of peoples and cultures. Thus, Abraham's story is not isolated in time, but immersed in a rich world of cultural exchanges and religious practices. The academic study of Genesis 17 offers a wide range of theological and anthropological interpretations. For scholars such as Gerhard von Rad, this chapter is a key point in the theology of the Old Testament, as it marks the establishment of the Abrahamic covenant, which will shape God's relationship with humanity. Circumcision, analyzed by experts such as Jacob Milgrom, is understood as a rite of purification and belonging, an act that reinforces the identity of God's people. Walter Brueggemann argues that Genesis 17 is an example of the paradox of promise, where God promises something humanly impossible, a child born to an elderly couple, to demonstrate his power and faithfulness. Other scholars, such as Nahum Sarna, highlight the psychological depth of the text, suggesting that the name change symbolizes a profound change in Abraham and Sarah's relationship with God as they assume their roles in the divine plan. For Christianity, this covenant is also seen as the prelude to the new covenant, with Abraham as the father of faith for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Archaeological discoveries at Ur, Haran, and other sites mentioned in the Bible help to contextualize Abraham's story more clearly. Excavations at Ur, led by archaeologist Leonard Woolley, have uncovered a rich panorama of Sumerian urban life, including religious artifacts and cuneiform records that mention covenant practices and rituals. At Haran, clay tablets and temple remains indicate that it was an important center of worship of the moon god Sin, placing Abraham in a religious context where local gods were worshipped by his neighbors. However, Abraham's covenant with God marks a break with these local cults, suggesting that Abraham followed a distinct and unique calling. Studies by archaeologists such as William Albright and more recently Zainab Bahrani show that the practice of circumcision was already known in other cultures of the ancient Near East, but in the context of Genesis 17 it takes on a special meaning. It is an eternal sign of the covenant between God and Abraham's descendants. Evidence from tombs in Hebron also shows funerary practices and rituals that reflect the importance of family covenants and alliances, suggesting a long tradition of spiritual commitment in the region. The story of Abraham and the covenant in Genesis 17 have deep echoes in modern society. Abraham is a central figure in the three major monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity and Islam, and circumcision continues to be practiced in many cultures, not only as a religious rite but also as a symbol of identity and commitment. Today, Abraham's covenant is often seen as a reminder of the importance of keeping promises, both spiritual and personal. The idea that God chooses unlikely people, like Abraham and Sarah, an elderly, childless couple, to fulfill his promises offers us hope in a world full of uncertainty. Just as Abraham was called to obey and trust in God's plan, many today find in faith a source of strength to overcome life's challenges. In an age where science and religion sometimes seem at odds, Abraham's story teaches us that faith and reason can coexist, and that the past can offer valuable lessons for the present. The concept of covenant, of a pact between the divine and the human, still resonates in modern relationships, whether in spiritual contracts, family commitments, or alliances between nations. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, each day is a new opportunity to call on the name of the Lord. Until next time.